Hello class, my name is Danny Carratala and today I'm going to be speaking with you about Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. To begin with, we're going to start off with exactly who Erik Erikson was. He was born June 15th in 1902 near Frankfurt, Germany. His father was unknown to him and he used to wander around Europe at 18 years old. He ended up getting accepted and going to Harvard where he later dropped out, and then he worked at Yale for a time. Something very interesting about Erik Erikson is that he never attained a college degree. When he dropped out, he met Anna Freud, who introduced him to the world of psychoanalysis. Anna Freud was pretty much the catalyst between he and Sigmund Freud. She connected the two of them, and that's where that contact came in, which is pretty interesting. He trained himself and was certified as a psychoanalyst at the Vienna Psychoanalytic Institute. He later taught at both Harvard and Yale, amongst other renowned psychological centers. Remember, he did not have a degree, so that's pretty amazing that he was able to do that. And he coined the term identity crisis and experienced many himself. He unfortunately died May 12, 1994, after living a long and prosperous life. That was about 20 years ago. That's a picture of Mr. Erikson. In a nutshell, unlike Freud, Erikson focused more on the effects of socialization. He said the conscious dominated our lives, and he believed in 3 levels of consciousness: unconscious, pre-conscious, and the conscious. He believed that personalities develop in series of stages, so it's not something that happens overnight, it's not something that happens all in one shot, it's something that happens over the course of one's life, and his stages deal with psychosocial development and identity development. He created the theory of psychosocial development. Okay, so psycho is ourselves, and social has to do with society. His theory is an extension, not a repudiation of Freud's. So that's very important to note that he was not competing with Freud, he was complementing what he learned under Sigmund Freud. And then each stage is marked by a conflict, as we will soon discover. Theory of psychosocial development, stage 1. Trust versus mistrust. This is infancy, the first 2 years of one's life. For future psychological growth, the infant tries to determine who he or she can trust. From the crisis between basic trust and basic mistrust emerges the basic strength. That is the strength of hope. We all have to start off with hope. Okay? An example of this for teachers who have very young students or before pre-K or whatnot, this is where you have a baby crying and you let himself or herself cry themselves to sleep. Okay? That can definitely lead to mistrust. Stage 2, autonomy versus shame and doubt. This is usually around the 2nd or 3rd year, so now it's getting more and more specific to us as teachers. This is when we have toddlers, and the children start to do their things on their own. They want to explore their environment. In regards to shame and doubt, this is the first time infants deal with trial and error. So an example of that is the hot stove. This is where children touch the hot stove, immediately retract, there's pain, there's discomfort. That's trial and error. Okay? So something else that can be applied to the classroom is this is where a student does something of great importance, of great significance, but unfortunately it goes unnoticed. If a teacher doesn't notice that, that could unfortunately lead to shame and doubt. Okay? Stage 3 is initiative versus guilt. This is around the first 4 to 6 years of age. Okay? So this is more specific to primary school teachers. Okay? So this is dealing with the preschool age students. This is where students start asking themselves, am I good or am I bad? It is very important at this age for teachers to use strategies and techniques that incorporate fantasy. Okay? Fantasy is where you're going to meet students halfway and you're going to have a lot of buy-in as opposed to a lot of pushback. Okay? And then here teachers have to be very careful in how they respond to questions from students. This is where students can have, teachers can have students create projects based on their interests. It wouldn't be something as formal as a questionnaire. It would be more oral questioning, just getting feedback from the students, nothing too formal. And you want to give continuous feedback and praise as needed, and you want to reprimand students in private and help them see alternative choices that they could have employed. So you never want to call a student out in front of the class, and then when you speak to them in private, you want to show them what they could have done differently to make sure that they learn from the mistake, and then it never happens again, and they don't let their yesterday determine their tomorrow. Have students make their own choices, and you want to break down activities and assignments into small groups, into small steps rather. You want to make them have short-term goals, that eventually those short-term goals add up to one long-term goal. At this stage, Erikson suggests that when children are in the play phase, that their sexual instincts may be in conflict with social customs, they may not be socially appropriate, and taboos. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. This is between 6 and 13 years of age. This is elementary and middle school, so this is the bulk of the students that we have. This is where students are going to ask themselves, am I competent or am I worthless? This is when they start defining themselves in terms of activities, schoolwork, social organizations, sports, clubs, cliques, unfortunately gangs sometimes, etc., etc. If they are competent, this will lead to healthy self-esteem. In regards to the classroom, teachers have to apply clarity and fairness at this stage to all the rules and ensure that students understand them. Otherwise, they may have a negative image of rules if they don't tie in their consequences with the rules themselves. So an example of this is if Timmy in your classroom were to break a rule and you don't give him immediate feedback and you don't tell him what he did wrong, but you wait hours, even days later to tell him something that he did and that you're upset and that you're mad at him, he may not necessarily tie in exactly what it was that he did to the rule that he broke. So you want to make sure that the feedback is immediate and that it's direct and that it's explicit. Okay? You want to have students in this stage set realistic goals. You want to assign student jobs in the classroom. So that's a paper passer outer, that's a door holder, that's a line leader, etc. You want to teach them study skills, and then you want to make sure that the basic strength and the core pathology that occur at this stage are confidence and inertia. So this is where make or break. This is where a lot of students can gain a lot of confidence and self-esteem, or inertia and be lazy and not dedicated and not towards something and not be dedicated towards something. Stage 5, identity versus confusion. This is where students are asking themselves, who exactly am I and where am I going? They're becoming their own person. They're finding out exactly who they are. This is after the elementary and middle school years. This is the high school and the college years. This is known as adolescence, which nowadays goes on to 26 years of age because more and more students are going to school for longer periods of time. This is where you're finding out who you are and seeking out your own identity. In the classroom, role confusion and sexual issues may be a topic that a teacher has to cope with at this stage. And at that age, the teacher, implementations you may want to employ. You can bring in guest speakers and spice up curriculum so that students can be exposed to different career choices and to different lifestyles. You want to incorporate different problem-solving skills. You want to provide students with positive role models. So again, tying into the guest speakers. You want to criticize behaviors, but not the student overall. So again, going back to the example with Timmy, you want to make sure that the feedback is direct and that it's explicit, but that it's also immediate and it's very specific. Okay, so you don't want to attack the student, you just want to attack the behavior that they chose to employ. At this age as well, something very important, you also want to teach students about life skills such as being financially literate. Stages 6 and 7, we won't take too much time on these because this goes past the school age years. This is intimacy versus isolation. This is your early childhood through your mid to late 20s. And then generativity versus self-absorption. Will I produce something of real value? Okay? And then the last stage is stage 8. This is integrity versus despair. Late adulthood into the elderly stages. So this is where you're looking back on your life and knowing, feeling that it had meaning. Despair, regretting things you did or didn't do. So that's the core pathology, despair, or the basic strength, integrity, depending on how fulfilling or not fulfilling, unfulfilling your life was. This is just a list of the references if you guys want to peruse it at your own time. Okay? And then now the class discussion. Since we are all in the field of education, what is unique about Erikson's educational background? I did go over that. What was very specific and unique about Erik Erikson himself and in regards to his education? What are Erikson's 3 levels of consciousness? And if you guys could tie this into the classroom, that'd be great as well. How important is it to you, stage 1, trust versus mistrust? In regards to the classroom, what basic strengths or core pathologies could a child at that age develop and exhibit later on in life? Autonomy versus shame and doubt, stage 2, so another stage that is important as well. That stage can lead to basic strengths and core pathologies in a child. What are they? And then the last one, do you believe certain stages trump others? Why or why not? So I went over the 8 different stages. Do we believe that any of these stages trump others in terms of value, in terms of importance, in terms of feedback, in terms of age, in terms of schooling, education, etc., etc.? Okay? So this is the end of the discussion. I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, anything of the sort, feel free to email me. My email address is dcarratala, so that's dcarratala3 @gmail.com, or you can contact me through the portal. and I will answer any questions that you may have. But once again, I thank you for your time and your attention, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.